G'day all. Today I wanted to walk you through how to take an existing car and make sure that rush hour can control the brake lights on that existing car. If you've used the vehicle importer or you're setting up a new car, this doesn't really apply as much. I would recommend that you use the existing video which shows you how to use the full light control component. This is going to allow you to integrate rush hour's vehicle control interface, which will allow rush hour to tell the brake lights to turn on and off without taking control of the entire light system. So it's usually only a few clicks per vehicle, but it does require that you need to sort of understand how the existing brake light system works on that car. It's not really something I can help you with on a per vehicle basis, as it depends so much on the blueprints of the car you're integrating into. I'll walk you through integrating it into two cars today, so you can have an idea of how it might hook in, and a few tips on how to work out where it might work in the existing vehicle. So the first car I'm going to integrate it into is the vehicle template sports car pawn. So if I double click that and open it up, you can see that I've already got to the brake lights here, but you want to look through the functions or the variables and look for anything that indicates brake lights. So in this case, there's just a function called brake lights, and it takes a Boolean value, whether it's the brake lights are on or off. So this is going to be really, really easy to integrate into. The first thing to do is we go up to class settings up here, and we come down to this implemented interfaces in the details panel. If we expand that out, we can see that there's no interfaces. And if we click add and search for RH, we can see RH vehicle lights interface. Click that, and we can see over on the left, we've now got interfaces, rush hour, light control. And in here, there's all these functions for future control, but for now, it only really does brake lights. And that's all we want to do today anyway. So it's quite easy. We find the set brake light state, and this is how rush hour will tell this car to turn the brake lights on and off. Rush hour will look for this. So if we just double click on set brake light state, we can see that it sets up this new event for us. And if we scroll back up over here, we find the existing brake lights function that was already on this car and just drag it in. We drag across the execution pin and drag across the new state to the is braking pin. And that will mean that rush hour will fire this event, and that will then execute the existing brake lights function. So if we compile and save that pawn, we can go back and try it out straight away. So select the path, come down to vehicle type, and we'll type in sports. Just make sure that you are on the rush hour spectator game mode. And then if you come up to play, and we'll go to the rear view, we can see the brake lights are off. The brake lights turn on and they turn off again. And then as it approaches the end of the path, the brake lights turn on. So that means that rush hour can now tell the car to turn those brake lights on and off at the appropriate time. So that's an easy example on how to integrate it. That's quite a simple vehicle class to work on. The next one I'm going to show you how to do it on, though, is the Velocity Sparrow car. So this is a really high quality car from the marketplace. It's quite nice. I quite like it. But it's a good example of integrating into a much more complex vehicle. So I'm going to open this vehicle up. So if you come down to the Velocity Sparrow and Blueprints class, I don't want to show too much of the blueprints of this because it is someone else's work. But I do just want to show a few different things that you can do to work out how you might integrate into it. So the first thing we want to do is we want to look for any functions that might say how to turn the brake lights on. So there's one here that says set lights. And if we have a look in there, we can see that there's a Boolean value for lights brake on, and then that sets some material parameters. So that looks pretty interesting. So we might need to turn on this variable. And actually, if we right click that and go find references, we can see wherever that is set. So it's red here and it's set here. So up here, it's got this replicated brake lights area. And if we come over and see where that's being called from, so that's being called on event tick. So that's a little bit of a worry for us. That's fine for how this vehicle should operate. But for us, we don't want that on tick because that's probably going to overwrite the events from rush hour. So what we'll do is we'll come up here anyway, and we'll probably just disconnect that. But we can see through all of its replication stuff, what it eventually does is it sets that variable on. And then if we come down and keep looking through the event tick, we can see that it sets some other lights, but then it also calls this set lights function, which is where it actually updates all those materials. So we need to change that variable, and then we need to call that update function. So that's easy enough to do. So now we've just got to do those same steps we did in that first car. If we go class settings, come over to here to implemented interfaces and type in RH, add the rush hour vehicle lights interface, come over to my blueprints on the left, interfaces, rush hour light control, and double click on set brake light state. It once again has created this for us. So there was that Boolean value we needed to set. So if we scroll down to variables, lights, and we find the lights brake on, drag that across. We want to set that value. We'll connect up the execution pin and the variable. And then we needed to call that set lights function. So if I drag that across, and that's all I need to do to connect this vehicle up here. So you can see a lot more of the work is trying to actually work out how the brake lights work in the existing vehicle rather than actually hooking up the lights. And it really is going to be a per vehicle thing. It's not something I can really advise you on each individual vehicle. You're going to have to sort of dig through that existing vehicle and work out how their brake lights work. But let's give that a test now. Let's close that. We'll select the path again, go to the details panel, make sure that we have the correct car selected. This vehicle also takes control of the camera, so I'm actually going to simulate this rather than full play. And if we follow this car along, we can see the brake lights are on, brake lights are off, brake lights are on. So just by adding those 3 nodes, we can actually have rush hour once again control those existing brake lights without having to go through the vehicle importer or connecting our own material system. You can just use the existing setup that's there. I hope that helps and gives you a few pointers on and how you can add that little bit of polish to your animations with existing vehicle setups.